Hello everyone, thank you for coming back to the channel. I've got a new project I'm working on today. I discovered on my wheels that I purchased a little over a year ago have some leaking valve stems, and I want to kind of show you what I'm doing to fix that and what the actual problem came out to be. So let me get over to the workbench. Okay, so what I've got here is a set of standard steel wheels, and it's got the chrome beauty ring that's going around the rim. And what I found is that this beauty ring is shifting a little bit and cutting into this valve stem, and it happened on all four of my wheels. Can't quite make it out, but there's a cut in there that's barely showing. And I'm going to show you how I went ahead and repaired this. Okay, so what you can see here is this does have a chrome shield on the majority of the valve stem, but it does not go all the way down to where the rubber meets the wheel. And what I'm going to do is change these out to this style. This has a little bit of a longer shoulder right here that comes all the way down to where the valve stem comes through the steel wheel. So I'll show you how I go about installing this. Okay, so first we're just going to use a pry bar and take apart this beauty ring so we can get it out of the way so we don't damage it while we're trying to get that valve stem out. So I'm just going to go ahead and go around the circumference here and pop this off. Okay, now that we got the beauty ring removed, we're going to start off by taking the cap off of this little guy right here. And then we need to remove the valve stem out of the inside of the stem, the core. And this is a core removal tool. You can get these pretty much anywhere. Sometimes the caps have the tip on them to do the core removal on them. So we're just gonna go ahead and stick this in here, and you can just twist it out and you can hear the air start to come out. You wanna let the air bleed out before you pull this thing all the way out, because it'll shoot out at you. So we're gonna just let that bleed out a little bit. There you go. So you can kind of see what's going on in there. So we'll let that bleed out for a little bit, let all the air out of the tire, and then we'll come right back. Okay, we got the majority of the air out of there. We're going to just go ahead and remove this valve stem core. And that's what it looks like when you take that out of there. I'm sure most of you have already changed a bicycle tube or something in the past, so this is probably not any new thing for you. But there's the core. Yeah, it won't focus in. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to have to break the seal on this tire all the way around. However, we do not need to remove the tire, and we don't need to fully pop this side off the rim. We'll be able to sneak in from, once we break the seal on this, we'll be able to get in with some pry bars and get that thing out of there from there. So the first thing we're going to do is just use some liquid soap, and we're going to spray around the entire tire here. Let that kind of just help break that seal a little bit, and then we'll just use some pry bars and get that tire loose off the rim, and we'll continue from there. Okay, what I'm using is just I've got some small pry bars here. I'm going to use 2 of them, work my way around, and then I've got a larger one if we have any problems getting that thing to pop off. They do make some tire irons that are specifically made for this that are a little bit better quality than what I'm doing, but for this purpose, again, we're not trying to take the tire completely off the rim, so I'm just going to work my way around the entire circumference of the tire, and once I get that broken loose, I'll jump back in the video. Okay, I got the bead all broken. I've left a bar on that side to keep the tire down, so it'll kind of come this way a little bit easier. And I used a couple of bar clamps to kind of hold this down while I'm working here, so I don't have to keep holding one lever and trying to hold that down. So you can see where the bulb is from the bottom of the valve stem. So we're going to just try to pull that out and replace it with the new one. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little tool I got, and to do a valve stem removal. It's basically a threaded shank in there that'll fit right over the top of the stem, and you just basically thread that on there. See if I could do this with one hand. There we go. So you just thread that all the way down on there, and then you could just, it's on a swivel, so you could just pull this down and pry this down until you can get it to come up and out. Okay, luckily I was able to get that out, and I realized I did make a fundamental mistake. I've already done this on 2 of my wheels, but I was thinking we were going to pull this thing up through the hole, but it's got a really wide bottom to it, so it's not made to pop out. It has to be pushed down and out. So what I should have done is just gotten that valve stem and started pushing it down and grabbing it and pulling it from the bottom. So again, you want to pull it from when you're removing the old one, if it hasn't already broken off, you want to pull it down and out. And then the new one can be pulled up and through. So again, you got a smaller area up top here than you do on the bottom. So that thing will not pull out the top. So that was a mistake on my part. Okay, so again, we're gonna get ready to push the new one up in. We've got to push it in from the bottom of the rim up, and then we grab it with the tool and thread it on there and then pop it up through the rest of the way till it meets this little indented part here like that, and that's what's going to grab the rim and hold it in place. So I did remove the little shield because that won't go through, that has to go in afterwards. So we're going to set that aside, and again I'm going to spray this after. Well, I'm going to get this set up in place, so I've got to get in there with some needle nose and hold that in place, and hopefully it doesn't fall down in there. And so I've got to get that started and up in there, and then I'm going to get the tool and thread it onto the valve stem. Okay, so you can see I got the vice grips holding that thing in, and I just barely got it popped through on this side, so we're going to try to get that tool and grab it before I drop it inside the rim. Okay, so we lucked out. I was able to grab it without it falling down. It's in there. Now all we got to do is pull it up through. I don't know if you can make that out. It's still down in there. I am going to go ahead and soak this up now so it'll pull through a little easier, and I'll show you how we pull it up and through. Okay, we just need to line this up against the rim and just pull and tug it up right until it reaches the edge of the cut through. There you go. I don't know if you heard that pop, so it's right in there. So now we can just unscrew this, set that aside, and this thing is in there just as it should be. And now we can go ahead and get our little shield that just slipped. It's a slip-on. Push that thing down all the way. And then when you put your cap is what keeps that thing from falling off. Once this is all done, I'll put the valve stem back in and get it aired up. But that's what it looks like when you're all done. And hopefully that'll keep the beauty ring from cutting into that valve stem in the future. There's still a little bit of black down there, but the beauty ring was kind of cutting up into it a little bit higher right about there. Okay, we got the tire all aired back up. Just gonna put the cap back on. Tighten that sucker down. As like I mentioned before, this cap is what holds the shield from lifting up, so that'll, once that's pressed down nice and snug, that'll keep the beauty ring from getting into that valve stem. Next, we're going to go ahead and put the beauty ring back on. Okay, so just a quick pointer. If anybody uses these beauty rings, you may or may not know already, but if you pull them off, it tends to get these tips and bend them outward or inward depending on how they're pushed in. Like you can see, these ones are kind of smashed in, this one's lifted up. So what you want to do before you go ahead and reinstall this, you want to go ahead and just get some needle nose pliers and just go through and make sure these are all about uniform. Just kind of about a 3/4 of the way bend. This one's too much, so we'll bend that one down. So you just want to go around the entire thing and make sure they're all about uniform. Like I said, they want to be kind of towed in just a little bit, kind of like this one right here. You don't want them flared all the way open because that's not going to grab. It's going to not want to set down, and you don't want them smashed in like this one. So just go around and make sure they're all kind of uniform. Okay, I've got all my tips just about even all the way around the perimeter there. So what I'm going to do is just kind of set this in here, and we want to start where the valve stem is, and we want to just kind of line that up right in there, just so it's not hitting either side. And then we're just going to go through and tap around the perimeter. Okay, got that all in. Just wanted to mention too that when you're installing these beauty rings, you don't want to use a mallet or anything. You just want to use the palm of your hand. Just tap it in there lightly till it gets even all the way around. Okay, so all we got left to do now is just put this wheel back on. I just wanted to point out I had some old wheel lug nuts that were on there since before. Went ahead and bought some new ones. I'll put a link to those in the description below. And there you go, another project in the books. All we got left to do now is just clean this baby up, and she'll be ready to ride for another cruise. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like if you enjoyed the information in this video, and I'll put links in the comments below, or in the description below rather, for all the parts and pieces that I used in the tools. And if you could give those a click, I'd appreciate it. Thanks again for watching.